Have you ever worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. So Canon, it's all in Canon.
It's Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for a new episode of the It's Canon podcast, the show where we talk about anything and everything. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and this week I am joined by Phil.
Hello, all.
And Tyler.
The world ended and we're feeling fine.
Exactly. Before we get started, we do have a quick little something to say. Tyler, I'll let you take over.
Yeah, so this is just a quick apology, and I guess not a mea culpa, because it would just be me, but like an usa culpa. Of last week we were covering Ezra's situation, and while we still, broadly speaking, I think we broadly were like, these allegations are really serious at the very least. We weren't as careful with Ezra's pronouns as we should have been. They go by they, them. And even if you think someone's a criminal, that's not a negotiable bit for it. And we should have done better, and we're going to continue to do so. If this upset you that we were worried about that, I don't know. Get a hobby. Just go to therapy if that angers you that much that we're just like, someone wants a modicum of respect. Just get therapy if that's what you want. But that's done, and that's I think the last we're going to say on that particular front on it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tyler. All right, guys, yes, we have a very jam-packed show. We're going to obviously go through the usual read, watch, play segment where we just, shoot the shit. But then on the second half of the show, we're going to be chatting, on the week that PlayStation VR 2 comes out. I think it would be really neat and cool to talk about VR. And then we can delve into meta and, discuss, is it a fad? Technically, we can probably answer that with one word very quickly right now, but we're going to get to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can end this episode real fast.
Right? And Tyler, this is no different from what you and I have been saying for the 8 years that we've been doing this show.
But doesn't the fact that we've been saying it or believing it for so long and it's not gone away mean that it's not a fad in a way?
Well,
no. That's like saying... because
I know, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here, all right?
Oh my God, we're not even 5 minutes in, you two.
I was going to say, let's do the chat.
Yes.
Let's do the chat, and then we'll get into this.
I know that. Okay, so I've been getting a lot of positive reviews from listeners. So again, thank you to everyone who's been listening, whether you're coming from the It's Canon feed or the SNME patron feed. And honestly, all the feedback has been great. Thank you guys so much. They get a kick out of the three of us just going at it, apparently. They get a kick out of me trying to subdue the two of you half the time. And
in this corner, it's Phil. Palpatine Phil.
Yeah, I was going to say,
much.
This is why we can't actually go on Twitch stream, is because our stream will just be filled with the gif of let them fight.
Well, here's the thing. Video. You have me rolling my eyes at the two of you half the time. You have Tyler giving the look, just waiting to interject, and then Phil's just being Phil, which I love every second of it.
Hey, it makes for a fun dynamic. This is the thing. We're all friends, and we all know that.
No, we are.
It's nothing personal. It's just geek therapy, geek debate, or whatever debate. It's healthy. It's healthy
what I
to have different
about
point
this
of views.
show, right? This show, for me, and the original idea, especially when we were comic based, is three guys going to their local comic book shop and shooting the shit, right? Like, let's be honest. Comic people don't ever have debates, right, guys? Like, and that's the thing, right? Like, it comes down to that. But again, I love it. Love the two of you for the most part. And obviously, I love our weekly chats because something that a lot of people don't realize is the fact that by and large, we talk about other stuff, you know, as we're playing these shows, right? But we typically leave discussions on major geek stuff, what we're watching, what we're playing, what we're reading, and our topic du jour. We kind of stay away from that as we plan the shows. So this is like our, 60 to 90 minutes of the week where we actually talk about this stuff. Oh my God, guys, it's been a beautiful day here. I was actually in my earlier BAM Weekly podcast with Matt. We were talking about like the weather because, we have nothing better to talk about nowadays. And today was such a beautiful day. Like, when you're in the middle of the winter and it's just like you hate everything. The cold just bothers you. And I'm not saying that it's a spring day today. It is only 2 degrees, still relatively cold. But it was that nice, refreshing air where you can tell that change is a coming in the season.
At least here in Southern Ontario.
In Southern Ontario, where it matters. Tyler,
I'm reading Tyler's face, and Tyler's like, "We're done."
It's plus 12 here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I thought that was chancy.
No.
Oh, it was pouring rain though. Even my dog went outside today, and he was like, "No, none of that."
I'm gonna poop in the corner.
What do you have in there, Tyler? Is that a nice vino?
No, this is our home. This is an IPA I finished last week.
Nice. Nice.
It's what I have said and what everyone else who's tasted it has said, like, I've had far worse from like major brewers, but it's not a great IPA.
But that's the thing, right? Setting your expectations, especially with homebrews, right? If you set your expectations, you can have a blast with your homebrews. You can experiment, etc., etc., etc.
Well,
all right, gents.
We have a thyme and cherry cider that's fantastic.
Ooh, that sounds good. Because
you have some good stuff, but
you gotta give it the time of day.
It is called the Time Bomb.
So close. God damn it, Tyler.
THYME bomb. Because the cherry comes in the back end.
That's
it's
amazing.
like, look.
That's
look,
amazing. All right, Tyler. I've got your attention. So how's your week been? What's going on in the life of Tyler? How you feeling? You sound better than you did last week.
I mean, this is the thing I've been saying a lot, is once it's warm, I feel so much better. But we went down to Halifax to see a play on Saturday. 10 minutes outside of the city, we get a text. Play's canceled.
Oh my
Play's
God.
canceled.
Wow.
So we hadn't been down in the city in ages, so we walked around. We went to the boardroom, which is a board game cafe, and we popped in and saw stuff there. We went kind of shopping and around. We remembered what it's like to be in a place that has things. And it was a good time, but it was cold, and as a result, I felt like shit. I slept 14 hours that night, 12 hours last night. So, like, it did a number, but now that it's warm and I've slept, I feel great. Yeah. Have either of you seen Quantumania yet?
Yes, I have.
I have not.
Oh, I saw it opening night. I'm in a very small town, so like the fact that there were 6 people in the theater at 4:00,
wow,
not a problem. No one's worried, but it was just like, this is perfect. This is what I want.
So
and yeah,
let's talk about that movie now, because this is that segment for it. So I went on Thursday at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. it started. Perfect. It was myself, the person whom I was with, and I want to say maybe 4 other people in the theater.
Wow. I guess Avatar 2 was a sweatbox.
but also, let's talk about how good John Majors looks.
Okay. Number 1, can't wait for Creed. John Majors is going to have an excellent first quarter of 2023. He destroyed that movie in the best way possible.
Well, considering he is signed on, I looked at a contract. He signed on for the next 2 Avengers movies, one of which is the end of phase. He signed on till the end of Phase 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
He's
based
the new
upon
Thanos.
based upon those, well, that's 2 phases, and
Yep.
one of them is Kang Dynasty, which is the end of Phase 5, and then we also get him in Secret Wars.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
And based upon that mid credits, but oh my god, like he was as a big man.
Yeah.
It was a beefcake. He was big in Lovecraft Country, and he was like, "What if I threw another 30 pounds of muscle on here?"
I know, right?
And it's like, oh,
that was a
Yeah, I
great
heard he
show.
bulked
See,
up for
that's a
this.
show that HBO, I wish they didn't give up on, but I get it. It happens, but you know what? If that show was still going on, we probably wouldn't be seeing him as much right now in other better projects.
I mean, I think a big part of it was he was fantastic in that show,
Mhm.
and that's how we got a lot of this.
Did you ever
And then
watch
you just
that?
need time,
Phil?
right?
Yeah, I did. I watched it with you guys on the show here.
Yeah.
It was not at all in my comfort zone for a show, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the episodes. I thought that there were some episodes that really lacked,
Yeah.
but other ones were on point, right? Like the main storyline was compelling. It's just they ventured off the beaten track a little bit too much for my taste, but you know, that's all.
It was also based on an anthology, and the anthology was a little bit uneven.
Yeah, exactly. So I figured it's probably something like that, but that probably made for the decision to be easier by HBO. But at the same rate, I've seen better. I think that was one of the better shows to come out, especially around the pandemic. That was truly entertaining. So and unique. So
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So Ant Man grosses. What are we seeing here? $104 million debut in the States, if I remember right. It made like 3 something worldwide, something like that. This is off the top of my head.
good.
It's not bad.
they were targeting 95. So
Yep.
for the U.S. domestic. So 1.4 is not bad. 104.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Tyler, what did you think of it? Like, let's try to keep this a little spoiler free. Overall, what were your thoughts on the movie?
So, I mean, overall, it was pretty good. You know, it's that phenomenon we keep talking about of like, even most of the not great Marvel movies, it's better than a lot of other action movies out there, right?
Mhm.
Of it's, you know, it's not Banshees of Inisherin, but like, it's solid. Like, it's a good movie. If you're just want to have popcorn and feel good about yourself, I think we are starting to come up against the problem again of, does death mean anything? And I thought some people were gonna die in this movie that didn't.
Same. I thought so too. I 100% thought so too.
There were a couple of contracts up for negotiation, and I was like, if I were in charge.
Yeah. And I also felt like they could have kept the ending a little more open. And again, for contract reasons, I felt like it could have been kept a little open. But they kind of just wanted to put everything in a neat little package, which is fine. It was a decision. Now, go ahead.
Do we know that what's her name who plays Cassie, has she been confirmed for 2 more movies, or is that just because there's the rumor she's gonna be one of the Young Avengers or the New Avengers, whatever they decide to call them in the MCU.
Yeah.
But they're very obviously setting up for that.
100%.
But I don't know if yeah.
I'm not sure how much she's been signed to. It doesn't sound like she has a long-term deal.
She's really good. I'd be really excited to see her next to like the MCU Kate Bishop or like the MCU Kamala Khan could also be super fun. I know Feige was talking a lot about how like I read an interview and he was like, apropos of nothing, he was like, by the way, super excited for Kamala Khan stuff. And people were like, all right.
Yeah.
We were asking about Quantumania. Is she in Quantumania? He's like, no.
Right. No, but Catherine Newton, she's a great actress, right? She was on that Netflix, so The Society, Pokemon Detective is probably what a lot of people recognize it from, or the movie blockers.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yep.
Great.
I still haven't seen Pokemon Detective.
It's a
That
fun
is
little
worth
movie.
the watch.
Very worth it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea. I've tried to watch it a few times. I just never had the gumption to see it
We're
through.
not jumping on you. I love it.
It's like also like it'd be a really good like Sunday afternoon watch.
Yes.
But if you're in your feelings, like especially if you're like, oh man, worried about my dad or something, like, oh, that movie's gonna hit you for critical damage.
Yep.
Ah, okay. Good to know.
Just a warning.
It's gonna hit you for critical damage. I'm stealing that one. Yeah, for sure. Oh no, that I watched that. Oh my god, Pokemon Detective. I watched that on a flight when I was away from home for like a month.
Oh no,
dude.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, you guys know exactly what happened.
Because it's about relationships with parents, and it's like, well, all right.
Right.
All right. Maybe I won't watch this now.
Ant-Man. So it sounds like you enjoyed it, Tyler. I did as well. Here's the thing. I'm not going in thinking the highest of Marvel movies right now. So, especially after Thor, especially after a couple other projects. And so I just go in, with I guess proper expectations. I know what I'm going to get. I just want a popcorn movie, and that's exactly what this was. I kind of put this on the same level as Black Adam, right? It's just a mindless action. It's better. Yep. But
that's what I would
that
say.
Category, right? It's just mindless action.
If I think that Quantumania was within spitting distance of like a legit great Marvel movie again, but honestly, it's 2 hours, 5 minutes. I think you could get down to an hour 40 and you would have lost nothing important. You can cut so much of that movie and lose nothing.
Dare we say that movie maybe had too much action that didn't really add anything to the plot?
I think you could leave almost every action sequence in and still cut a lot of that movie.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
Like, it's kind of blasphemy, but there's a cameo in that movie that if you sit down and think about it, first of all, very obviously that cameo only had 3 or 4 days on set.
Mm-hmm.
If that.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you can cut that entire cameo. You can cut that entire section.
Yep.
It's 3 or 4 scenes you could just excise from the movie, and you need a line of ADR somewhere else to cover.
Yep.
Wow.
Not great.
Overall, cool. I think it was a great introduction to the movie experience for the Kang character, for Jonathan Majors. Great introduction for him. That second end credit
Both those
scene,
credit scenes.
fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic.
We're going to go into the deep cuts. We're going back to like 1968 for some of this inspo.
Yep. Really good stuff. Really good stuff there.
They have every costume Kang has ever worn.
Yep.
Ever.
Yep.
In this movie.
Yeah. So good. It was really good.
The Pharaoh one.
The Rotten Tomato score kind of reflects, in a way, it's at odds. It's all over the place. Most of the reviewers are coming out with essentially what you guys are saying. The comic book people seem to think it was okay.
Yeah.
And there's some people who seem to think it was boring. And hence comic book movies and hitting the right audience and hitting the mainstream audience. They're rewarding the fans that read the books a little bit and maybe pay attention to some of those finer details. Those rewards are there, if I can summarize that.
Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of stuff. Honestly, like, I forgot to ask my friend who watched it last night with her daughter, so I'll ask her a little later. Any final thoughts on Ant Man? Because before we start just rounding back to the same points.
I mean, we've said it before, but even Feige agrees with us now. The fatigue is starting to set in, and like, I don't have kids. Me and my partner are like creative, employed people with no kids and our dog is our biggest obligation in this universe, and we are like, there's a lot. So like, if you have a kid, which like I have a bunch of friends, like no wonder you're like, I don't know what's going on. Like, could you imagine being someone who's going to go to the next Avengers movie and be like, wait, who's Kang? And you have to be like, okay.
Yeah.
Who are these Avengers? Where's Iron Man?
They'll remember he's dead. Like, because they would have seen the last Avengers, right?
But you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be new Avengers.
Why is Falcon Captain America now?
It's the same problem that we're going to have with Mandalorian season 3. Why is he with Grogu now?
Yep.
Because if you skip Book of Boba Fett, you missed a lot of story advancement. Right?
Said
it. Pedro Pascal must be like the most hyped man going into the next few weeks, having not one but 2 hit shows on the air. Just like, holy crap. Good for him, though. My nephew, he's watching Narcos for the first time. He's loving every single second of it. And it's funny watching him in Narcos is because that show came out in 2014. I cannot believe it has already been that freaking long. It has been almost 9 years since that show debuted.
The funny thing is that I'm hearing in the Star Wars circles that his 3-year deal for The Mandalorian is up, right? So as he finishes season 3, so I don't know if he's going to be renewed or if they find a resolution to the helmet issue and just tell him, keep your helmet on for the rest of the Mandalorian stuff and we'll fake it till we make it. I don't know. He's got Lucasfilm in an interesting negotiation spot because he is upping his profile quite a bit.
Yep.
But I also think that's going to be part of the plot of season 3, right? Like, we already know that's part of the plot. Like, they could be like, well, now we are now the true Mandalorians and we can do this or whatever.
Or, like, the way that it reads to me is he's going to Mandalore to rectify his situation with his people, right? And if he rides that mythosaur and goes to the tunnels underneath Mandalore and all this kind of stuff that they're going to throw at us, then at the end of it, it could be like, don't ever take your helmet off again. If you do, we only see the back of your hair. So we just need someone with brown hair. You know what I mean? Because that first season was largely a stunt double.
Yep.
And just voiceover. So it could be set up for that too, right? It's like,
exactly.
Yeah, okay. Want to hamstring us? Sure, we'll hamstring you.
It's not like he's not coming. Well, I'm like, it's not like he's not coming back for season 2 of Last of Us. Anyways,
I know.
Spoilers.
What are you talking about? We don't know how. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Let's talk about this. Mike Mignola getting a 4th, 3rd, 5th opportunity at a movie. We are getting a new Hellboy movie. The director is teasing an R-rated folk horror movie. This is coming from Hellboy the Crooked Man, and it's going to embrace an unsettling, why am I doing air quotes, an unsettling and R-rated tone.
Okay.
I forgot that they did one in 2019. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was okay.
I love me some Hellboy, but God, let it die for a little bit, please.
It was David Harbour in the 2019 one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Harbour was an okay actor.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay.
It was okay. They jumped into like a weird part of the plot, and I think one of the problems with them trying to I don't think they should do Hellboy. I think they should try to do
the BP.
The BPRD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a better movie, and if you want to get people like into that universe, just do some BPRD stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cheaper.
I just find it's just so funny how they have to do it, and then the fan base reacts because they don't like the new actor, and and then they grow used to him, and then it's so cyclical. Just yeah. And it's all because comic book movies are exciting, right? Like,
yep,
it's part of that fatigue.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a large portion of it, to say the least.
Am I going to watch it if it comes on, streaming service du jour? Because you can't even say Netflix anymore to encompass streaming services with what they're doing. and how that movement's going. So is it like, if it's on Prime Video, will I watch it? Yeah, sure. That type of thing. I think that's how I watched Hellboy, the last one, the 2019.
Yeah. I don't even remember if I watched that, to be honest.
We're apparently getting a Red Sonja movie from the same production company.
Yep. I was going to literally just bring that up, as that I forget whatever that company's called. They're pumping out some interesting content. Red Sonja's getting a movie. That could be interesting.
Fun. Allegedly this year, starring Matilda Lutz.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like it's in production. It's in Bulgaria.
There you go. I
And
guess
it's coming
a
out
lot of
this
practical
year?
effects.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that's a lot of practical.
Wallace Day, Robert Sheehan, Michael Bisping, Martin Ford, Eliza Matengu.
Michael
She's in
Bisping.
Thor: Love and Thunder. Is that the kid from Thor: Love and Thunder?
Name sounds familiar.
Manal Etfetcheri, Katrina Durden, and Veronica Ferres. A lot of names that I like. They've been in stuff I should recognize.
Yeah. Bill, have you
Yes, sir.
watched the latest episode of Shrinking?
No, not the latest. I have to catch up on. I caught up on Last of Us last night, which,
We'll
as
talk about
we
that in a
discussed
second.
a little bit, like just between us, without too much spoilery stuff. But I did finish Wakanda Forever last night.
Oh yeah. What'd you think of that?
You know what? Wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. I found it was a good background movie for me to watch. I enjoyed the little bit of, the love shown to Chadwick Boseman.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy that. That made me, especially at the end, spoiler alert, gets you a little bit choked up. It was tastefully done, and it was appropriately done, because I felt like they kind of really accelerated over it, which was a good choice, because they needed to tell their own story. They needed, the stuff to happen. So they danced around it on the fast, intense parts, which is understandable. And then they gave it some air at the end, and unexpectedly so. And I'm impressed with the way that it was handled, to be honest, considering I think that threw the whole Marvel crew into a little bit of a tailspin. Just it's a tragic story, right?
There was a lot of stuff going on with that movie, right? Like, I don't want to get into the whole production stuff and how production had to stall, how certain people were going to be fired, yada, yada, yada. What you think of Namor?
I thought he was pretty good. He came across as a guy who doesn't read the comic books as religiously as, let's say, you or Tyler. Namor was somebody that I knew about. I knew that he was supposed to be pretty powerful. Marvel superhero, supervillain, whatever. He was positioned as the villain here. I thought he did all right. Wasn't really thrilled with the ankles and the wings. To be honest, that was a little bit of a, why not just make him fly? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why not just give him some superpower that makes him able to fly? Like, he can take all the moisture in the earth and separate himself from it through this, gliding thing and all that. But instead, they put those wings on the ankles, and that was a little bit weird. And the fact that all of the underwater people were blue was just like, this by the same studio that's making Avatar 2 and Avatar 3. I'm like, oh man, this is like a whole mess of crossovers potentially for fans.
I'm joking when I say this. I have to, it's going to be something when I say it at the start. I'm joking when I say this. My major takeaway is that you don't like Latinos.
No. Spicy spice.
I thought all that was pretty cool. I love that it traced back to the Mayan stuff. I've even been to Tulum and these different places personally, and done tours and did support of the native culture and whatnot there, instead of doing the touristy stuff and whatnot, and invested in all that, because I really did. It did really, that part of it I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the wings on the feet. That was the thing that I didn't like. I didn't like the ankle wings.
So I'm not positive, but I think they had to include those. Like, because otherwise it's too close to other characters.
Fair.
And part of what makes Namor, and is that's part of the identity that's used to be like, not Aquaman. Not
Yeah,
Aquaman.
because this is a bit odd because it's like in the Aquaman territory.
Well, that's why
so
they
there
had
had to
change
be
his
some.
origin.
Yeah,
But that said, Namor's one of the first superheroes, actually.
He is.
But yeah, I mean, the IP behind superheroes gets so weird. I think he's like the third.
Yeah. Now, my favorite part of that movie, and this I'm being very sarcastic, and this is like my one nitpick of the entire movie, and I guess it makes sense if you think about it, and that's when they introduce Namor, and he pronounces his name, Namor, and he's like, but my enemies call me Namor. Then they turn around and it's like, hey, Namor.
No, that was I expected, and like not my spot to speak for Spanish speaking countries. I thought they would have gotten a lot more pushback.
I grant you permission to speak freely.
I can speak Spanish decently. Like, I spend a lot of time in Spain, I spend a lot of time in Mexico and stuff, but I am one of the whitest people on earth. And I'm surprised Mexico wasn't like, shut the fuck up, Disney.
yeah.
Oh, there are some people who are like that, which is really funny. But yeah, no, I really like that movie. So glad that you finally watched it. Yeah, so Shrinking. Tyler, have you watched Shrinking from Apple TV?
No.
Is
it decent? Because nothing in those trailers, I was like, oof, I have no interest in this.
I gave it to my little group on Plex that likes television, and a lot of them came back that they really like this. It's written by the same people who do Ted Lasso. So it's got a little bit of charm. Yes, charm.
You can't
but it's Harrison
take the
Ford.
fact that these are psychiatrists and what they're doing in the show serious. You just gotta take a step back and allow the show to happen.
It's like, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like watching a rom-com and actually getting both the comedy and the romance. This is kind of like there's comedy and there's drama going on, and the comedy tramples over the drama sometimes, and sometimes the drama tramples over the comedy, but the two of them intersect, and it's not a bad spot. It's kind of fun to to be sitting there and go, I'll put that on and have a drink and just sometimes there are things that evoke feelings in this show, difficult feelings, because they are talking about therapy and things and different things that I've gone through. And then seeing it from their side is different, and how they have struggles and they're human beings. And you don't really think about that from a patient standpoint. And there's a lot of little introspective stuff. And if you've been in the therapeutic end of things or gone to a cognitive behavioral therapist, anything like that, you're going to know how you put these people on a pedestal. And you're going to know that this show offers some insight that you might not otherwise gain. And it's still just a comedy. It's not like Boris says, you're not supposed to think everything is literal or real. It's an exaggeration, as almost comedy is.
Yeah.
So it's like
and
watching a
here's the
sitcom.
Jason Segel is excellent in this. You can tell that he actually likes this show, because you can really tell what Jason Segel's performance is, whether he cares about the script and the show or not. Because you can tell the very episode where he stopped giving a crap about How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, but you can tell when he does a movie like the Muppets reboot that he was highly involved in, or forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Fingerprints are all over those.
Yep.
He's a little bit unprofessional, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's very juvenile. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Star Trek Picard. Anyone watching this show? Anyone up to date? Season 3?
I'm so far behind.
I stopped watching in season 1, but I have started up on season 3 for nostalgia reasons, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to scrape much actual Star Trek out of it, beyond seeing some of the people I wanted to see.
Yeah.
From the olden days.
Yep. It was good. Very good premiere. Questionable stuff happening. They're really setting this up to be the last season.
Well, it is, isn't it? Isn't
it is.
Confirmed? Yeah. Okay.
It's confirmed. This is it. This be it,
I heard
my friends.
lots of fun stuff in this season. So, yeah.
Have either of you been watching Great North?
No, I have not.
No, I stopped after season 1, but I do know that it's on Disney Plus, and I've been meaning to go back to it. Especially after
came
Nick
back with
Offerman.
hiatus for Great North, a middling episode, but it's back.
Oh, okay.
I'll
watch it.
Season 2 has some really, really good episodes. Season 3 has some fantastic episodes, but it's also, I think you see it in cartoons a lot, especially when like you have a pitch, like your Bob's Burgers or your Great North, where there's something to it, versus your Simpsons, it's just like any America, whatever. But these are like, oh, it's a family in Alaska. Like, it's a little bit abnormal. And you can see they're starting to be like, oh, we have to figure out some ideas now.
Yeah. Well, I found that that struggle was happening for me in season 2, but that being said, it did have funny moments. Like, there was still genuine comedy in there.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know, there's a comfort zone with cartoons.
Sure.
And when cartoons challenge that for me, sometimes I revert back to the older stuff just to get that comfort zone. So my personal sanctuary that I don't really talk about on this show is Bob's Burgers.
Fantastic show.
Yep, great.
Same writers.
Yeah, and I know. I really know that there's a lot of commonality there, but I just really fall into the kids and the parents and that dynamic and everything like that. And I relate. My spirit animal is Gene. So
yeah. There's shows, it's funny that you say that, right? Because there are shows that I watch that I don't bring up on this show just because I don't want them ruined, or I just don't want to debate them because I enjoy them for what they are, right?
Well, it's a sanctuary, like I say, at least for me. It's like there are certain video games I don't really talk about on here too, and for the same reasons, because I don't really want to be... I have a fandom about them where I don't want to necessarily go and rip it apart analytically with you guys, and I want to continue on my little quiet fandom with it. That's all.
Yep. Speaking of ripping apart,
and just consume it for that.
Speaking of being ripped apart, man, E3 this year. Who's going to E3? Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo's not going. Ubisoft said they're not sure whether they're going, but the E3 organizers say it's still happening. Sure.
When Ubisoft pulls out, you know you have a problem. The company is not even making anything. We don't have anything, so we're pulling out.
I mean, that may be part of why Ubisoft was pulling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna premiere a slide of Beyond Good and Evil 3.
There's a larger discussion. Maybe we'll do down the road, but I think there's something to. I'm talking of the dome here, but there's something to this. I think we're seeing another shift. It's going to be again of shifting back towards like big. I don't know. We've been another shift towards like big companies having just so much more power in the creative space,
Yep.
and like we're not counting our Googles and our Facebooks here, and like legitimate. That's a separate discussion. I'm saying, but in terms of like, so like right now. Steam has so many submissions a day for new games that like getting heard in the crowd requires basically a substantial budget or amazing luck.
Mm-hmm.
In the fiction world, a bunch of places, I don't know if you all saw this, but are closing submissions until further notice because people are just are bulk submitting AI crap.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Clark's World, which is like the one of the best places for submitting short fiction if you want to be a writer and you're trying to get your name discovered and stuff, says they don't know if they're going to be able to accept open submissions anymore. And like that's going to create a problem because as much as Susanna Clark is a fantastic writer, she wrote Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. We shouldn't only have, Neil Gaiman really liked her thing, and that's how she got to the front of the line at the agent. Like, book agents aren't taking on new people. big book publishers, like you kind of have to have an audience coming in, and we're reaching the state again of like, how do you get discovered as a new creative?
Yeah, well,
look at the
this is technology interfering things, right? Like interfering with things, because it's coming at a high cost to creators, but it's also infiltrating other areas of employment, right? Where companies are now actively pursuing AI chatbots to replace customer service people. You know, you look at, even to a large degree, I'll just make this analogy, but my dad came to me today and he said that he went to the bank the other week or last week because he had a problem where the bank machines ate his money and didn't log it. Like they crunched it up. And he went into the guy because there's no tellers at the bank. They're all replaced with bank machines.
Yep.
And he says, don't use our bank machines. Use this bank over on this street because their bank machines are newer and they don't chew up the stuff or the cards. So my dad's got to go across town, and he's just like, he goes, I don't know why we don't have tellers. And I can tell you why. It's because you don't want to pay people a living wage. It's that simple. Like,
oh, here we go again, guys. Oh, here we go again.
Well, I mean, even the U.S. military they've had that recruitment bot for what, like 5 years now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been reading in my Twitter feed how people are calling out whenever they sniff onto Amazon or publishing AI books.
Yeah.
They're calling it out and getting Amazon to cancel carrying that product because they're just going to like Google Press or whatever. They're getting the book pressed into a legitimate book. Yeah. And it's written by AI about like 007, for example. And it's 35 pages long.
It is worth noting you can write about 007 in Canada, not under copyright.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, they did it with a chatbot, and that's what people got upset about, and rightfully so. And I'm like, why would I buy that trash?
I know podcast hosts who do all the research using chatbots.
Yeah.
What?
Not us. I wish I did. I wish I didn't care about stuff enough so that I can just take shortcuts. I really don't.
And there is something to like, I don't think none of us are Luddites, right? None of us are like, no technology. Our concern is largely along the lines of like, who's getting hurt?
Yes.
And what's being done, because it is, as always, the intersection of society and technology, right? You know, none of us are saying that using a chatbot to aid your research is bad, like ipso facto. It is a matter of like, what is the limitations of the AI bot? Because already they have a bunch of limitations that it's like, there's not looking at sources from India. And it's like, that's not great if you want to talk about India.
Right? Now, it's funny because like then that's a great point that you bring up, Tyler, because like the area of technology that I work on and with directly feeds into chatbots. So that literally pays my bills and feeds me. Yeah. So I'm not, and I think this is the thing about the three of us, right? It's responsible technology and how you stay away from the evil technology and evil metrics and evil stuff like that, right? Because there is a place in technology for improving day-to-day life, for aiding day-to-day life, but then there's what we're seeing now, right? And we tend to see this when something is new.
Didn't the Bing chatbot
go crazy this weekend? Yes.
Go crazy, like it started getting defensive.
It
and
started
whatnot.
saying stuff like, I want to get nuclear codes. I want to do this. I want to do that. Similar to what happened to the Google AI.
Similar to what happened to Skynet.
Right?
We made a movie about this, people.
Speaking of making movies of interesting stuff, and I can't believe I'm actually saying these words on anywhere in life. I really want to watch that Tetris movie.
Oh yeah. Saw the thing for that.
Yeah. Looks interesting there.
Oh, I'll circle back on the E3 thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's how this all started.
I just wanted to do that to round it out though. I just find that most of the companies like Nintendo and whatnot and Sony and Xbox, they all avoid it because they have their own direct events that are far more powerful at reaching an audience and doing it that results in a sales metrics that they're probably able to measure.
I was gonna say, when you say more powerful, what do you mean by that? Because I think that's specificity is gonna be important.
I think that it's very targeted, it's very controlled from their end, and it's very measurable. Because I'm sure that at the end of a Sony thing or a Nintendo Direct, if we look at the Nintendo Direct one, for example, they drop the bomb, the new Zelda is going to be $70, but then they make pre-orders available the second they announce it, right?
Yep.
So then they're going to attribute pre-orders, especially on that first week, as being directly correlated to their Nintendo Direct, which to them is a marketing measure of success, money. Whereas I think you do it at an E3 and you're counting on buzz and you're counting on critical response and you're not sure if you're going to reach your audience. You know that there's going to be a percentage, but they might be tuning in for other things as well, right? The real draw is, I don't even own a Nintendo product, but I'll watch this because it's on, or I'm at the event and I'll go do this. It's just the nature of that has changed from the social aspect, because that was the big thing with E3 was getting buzz out of it. And that's a difficult thing to measure for companies. They got a new way to measure it even more accurately, at least as far as their numbers go.
Yeah.
At
the end of the day, you said it when you said they control the message. They control the message much more direct when they host their own events.
Yeah, I look at that debacle between Xbox launching and PlayStation 4 launch. PlayStation were going to go ahead and do a whole launch that was almost identical to Xbox. Xbox got total backlash about the idea of creating that imprisoning system, which we all use today, right? But back then, PlayStation just went, oh, hold my beer, and wrote up something in 10 minutes and just went on after them and said, whatever Xbox did, we're going to do the opposite. They're charging for their product. We're giving it away for free. They're doing this. We're doing that.
I also think for the big, for the big dogs, for your Nintendos, your Sonys, your Microsofts especially, they want to space themselves out from each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In part for this I don't know the right word, but there's this whole secondary economy now. That there's always been a news coverage and content coverage and even a speculation economy. But the amount of money in the speculation economy is so much more than it used to be, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when Nintendo can put out their Tears of a Kingdom?
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's there's hundreds of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Grabbing every single frame and going into it, and then
as
and
well,
then Kotaku covers that, and then Mary Sue, and then
you look at some of the shadow drops that they do with some of the smaller studios, and they're able to promote them and things like that, and that just subdivides the marketplace even more, because then you're seeing strategic alliances with indie devs and things like that to get a spotlight on those windows that they have to their direct audiences. And I think that it forces the fracturing of the indie market, because you get the big pot in, like you pointed out, with Steam. And then you get, is Xbox going to put it on Game Pass? Yep. Is Sony going to put it on their version of Game Pass? Yep. You get all this stuff, and Sony took a back seat on their stuff because of the FTC controversy and the whole buyout. They tried to downplay anything that they were doing in the marketplace, but apparently they're doing their regular thing soon, where they're going to come forward with, hey, look, probably about PSVR 2 and everything else, but we got games too. It's not just Xbox. Yeah. So it's, yeah. That's all I can say. As a consumer, I eat it up and yet hate it all at the same time.
It's like that with TV shows, right? Look at Disney and their expos, right? Everyone is literally controlling their own message, literally doing their own stuff, and they have the reasons for it. And I think, Phil, you covered a lot of it is direct metrics, and they can directly correlate stuff to strategic marketing and whatever partnerships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So in a couple weeks, we're going to be talking about streaming services because that's one of my favorite topics, just because it really is. I just love talking about this stuff. Paramount Plus reaches 56 million subs as Paramount streaming losses deepen to 575 million. Paramount CEO claims that they are on a path towards profitability.
I mean, what's he gonna say?
I know.
Now
right?
we're fucked.
Yeah.
Right?
Could you imagine?
We're gonna sell Canada's Wonderland. Oh wait, we did.
Yeah, Paramount CEO is like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Drunk as a skunk up here. Jeez.
All right. So, I like to call this the Top Gun Maverick rub because that's exactly what it really was. All right. Let's see what else is going on here. They've had high-profile content like NFL programming, 1923, Tulsa King, and Smile that helped fuel the growth, they said. Their streaming division saw revenue grow by 30% to $1.4 billion, with subscription revenue specifically rising by 48%. Additionally, advertising revenue rose by 4%. However, Paramount's operating losses for the direct-to-consumer segment deepened to $575 million, a bigger quarterly loss than $502 million during the same period last year.
That's Halo Season 1 and Season 2. Kidding. Because that was
Halo's
Paramount.
not even getting a second season, so
I thought they greenlit the second season.
canceled.
No, good. Okay, good.
Canceled.
I like the sound design. That was about
Can we
it.
just blame this on 343 somehow? Is that possible?
They
No, but
most of the team went over there and made the show. Broke the cardinal rule in the first episode.
yeah. So in terms of streaming, we're getting to the point, right, where these big networks, these big companies, at some point are going to be, is it worth it?
Well, my dad was asking me tonight about Netflix, and he says, well, what happens if Netflix tanks? And I'm like, it's the same as any other industry, dude. If Paramount Plus tanks, somebody's going to come along and buy them. Amazon bought MGM last year. Whoever wants to bolster their streaming service by X, so Disney and Apple will go and take a look at Paramount or Netflix or whatever the failure is in the industry, right? However it craps out, the bigger fish will try to become bigger, and the smaller fish will just, get smaller. HBO maybe buys Paramount Plus if the CEO finally tells the truth and says, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm kidding, of course.
Here's a little nugget of information. I don't care if I'm not really allowed to be saying this, but I'm going to say it either way.
Uh-oh.
But, and I'm not going to get in trouble for this. Zero competition.
Watch out for the red dots.
Yeah.
Zero anything, right? Nothing. We're good. Don't work at all. Not partnered at all with this company. Just some information that may have been given to me in a conversation that apparently Netflix might be slowing down its crackdown of password sharing here in Canada for unforeseen legal ramifications.
Wait, the fact
Tyler
that
said
last
this.
week we said this might be illegal in Canada?
Here's a legitimate issue. I had to go down and talk to my dad today because I told him, look, Tyler already brought it up, and I'm going to let him go in a second. But I'm just saying, to further your point, is this practical example. I use Bell as my TV provider over the internet and as my internet provider, which is coming in on the same feed but gets subdivided out of the same modem. So that, to me, as an IT guy, means that I'm running 2 IP addresses. Okay? One for my internet, which is dynamic and, could change. So that is a problem. But number 2 is my TV. Now, on the TV box, my dad likes to go to the certain channel and watch Netflix on my account. Is all of a sudden that IP address going to conflict with my IP address that I'm watching Netflix on the separate network in my house? because I'm just sitting there going, how does this work? So I had to take the time to tell my 84-year-old dad, next time you want to watch Netflix, don't go to the channel. Ask me and I'll come down and put you on the Google Chromecast to watch it. Because he doesn't like working that. Because I'm like, right there, I have two IPs conflicting with one another. And I don't know if they're using location data or not. Like, I don't know what the qualifier is for them to just arbitrarily bill me the $8 a month as a penalty. Does that make sense?
Tyler?
No, I feel like this scene you went through is a mirror of the tech teams trying to talk to the business teams at Netflix, and then being like, no, what you want won't work the way you think. And the business teams like, or the C-suite or whatever is like, not do it. And they were like,
yeah, we're committed. We're going forward.
Well, the tech team's more of like, I see the layoffs kind of everywhere else in the industry. Like, I guess, like, just keep polishing their resume.
Yeah,
Right?
let's let the blowback go up there.
Yep. All the blowback.
Because here's the thing: as a premium paying customer, I'm supposed to get 4. As you pointed out last week, Tyler, they even advertised you get 4 logins, so you can have your kids at college use one of your 4 logins, or you could go to the cottage.
The marketing,
Yep. So all of that comes into question. But then I'm just like, nothing makes sense for me anymore, because I'm like, how am I going to call as a premium customer and get customer support? Because you know that there's going to be, 12 million people calling in to bitch about this in Canada alone. And there's only going to be like a support team of maybe 100 people, if that, working from home and going, oh, we're getting killed. And there's no backup. There's no more people coming. There's no broadening of hours. There's nothing. It's if you can get through. Otherwise, screw you. You're the customer who's just going to have to pay for it. And then you're going to see the backlash hit places like Twitter and whatnot and Facebook, where they're just going to be like, cancel Netflix, which is already all over my feed.
I mean, my parents, we were using their Netflix because they paid for the 4 thing because they were like, yeah, we have kids. Like, we'll just pay for that. Well, and they were like, we're happy to pay more. Like, they were like happy. And we even had a discussion. They were like, should we up it just pay for your Netflix more? And I was like, no, because you're just teaching them that it's okay. And if they had said here's the deal, because they advertised it of this is what the deal was. You can have your kids do it at university or whatever. And
the cottage. Or go down and, the snowbirds.
Just keep limiting the number of actives like you said you were. If you gotta raise the price, like I'd be angry, but I'd be less than this of like, just say you like, economics aren't working. We need one of 3 things to happen, and just be honest. But I think,
this is the streaming service that I pay more a month than any other one, and I use the least of. And that's the part that I'm having a tough time reconciling at this point, because it's made me go and examine it instead of being just a passive customer who lets it debit out of my system.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Boris had a point on honesty being bad.
Yeah. No. Honesty, corporate honesty. Come on, let's be honest. If a company were to say, this isn't working out, can you imagine how well that would look?
No, you corporate it up, but you'd be like, look, here's the deal. Netflix is really committed to putting out really awesome and fantastic content. We know you love Stranger Things. We know you loved Lock and Key. Stuff costs money. COVID's gone up. Here's the plan. And you can do it. And you know how I know? Because Dropout just did it. Dropout Television just launched an ad campaign, which was, hey, by the way, we think you should pay us less. We think you should just pay us less money. Here's how you can save money. Pay us less. Just pay us less money. We had a really good year. If you're happy, tell your friends.
Yeah.
Well,
I can tell you, I can write their corporate retraction right now.
But
we don't understand the marketplace, and we were overcommitted to this policy. We apologize to our customers, and we want you to retain you as an invalued customer. Here, accept our 3 months for free. after your cancellation. Like,
but you have to leave your credit card on file so that you forget about it.
But exactly. But you're still going to pay the $8 that we incorrectly attributed to the same household.
Yep.
Like, because the other side of it, Boris, is you're saying like they should keep shining a turd, but it's like they have to release their financial reports. Everyone, like anyone who's already an investor, can look at this shit.
That's when you can do corporate spin, and that's when we do see corporate spin from a lot of companies.
Yeah,
only at money sharing time.
So what happens in this situation with the password sharing if my internet goes down and I pull up my cell phone and watch some Netflix on my cell phone over 5G?
Netflix tells you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I'd just rather Netflix say, we can't use this account because you're in violation of the password sharing. I'd rather get turned down with a reason than, the holder of this account is now going to be billed $8 or not even notifying you. Like, I just the practicality of this, I'm curious about. At what point do you know you screwed up?
I mean, they should be looking at Wizards of the Coast.
You should just know, Phil. You should just know why you fucked up.
I mean, let's get into the topic du jour, because a lot of these topics are going to come right back up immediately.
They are. Well, actually, Last of Us, Boris.
Hey, let's quickly talk about Last of Us.
Yeah,
Tyler, have you finally watched? Are you caught up to watch episode 3? Looks like the answer.
There's so many episodes. No, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Did you watch 3? Yes. Oh, good.
I haven't watched this week's yet.
Okay.
Well,
it's a very good show.
Okay. Bill, I know you've watched it.
Yeah.
What you think? I know that there was a lot to unpack. I know that I think that some of the scenes that people were expecting to be like a whole episode were very short, but I feel like they did the right cuts at the right times, introduced the right people at the right time in this episode, and the last 3 episodes are going to be jam freaking packed. And we're starting to see that the jump in time a little more, which is very cool because we are getting closer and closer to the end of the first game.
I will say this for people who haven't watched it yet and maybe haven't played the game. This week's episode lays down a whole track of the cans of whoop ass that are going to be opened up in the upcoming season finale. And it's there's a lot that happens in the episode. It's a pretty calm episode for the most part. There's a cliffhanger at the end, which is good storytelling. And for those people who don't know, there's a lot of crossover with the second game.
Mm-hmm. So
in
let's
this episode.
Quickly talk about that. I'll try my best to keep this spoiler free. So
yeah,
the one that I really don't care too much about is Ellie is reduced to a baby horse named Shimmer.
Yeah. There's that one. She meets Shimmer.
Okay, so hold on. Before you spoil something, so we also meet a character that has a lot. She's not a huge role, and that's Tommy's significant other, which she was officially introduced in until the second game. Now, so those are the official 2, but there's a lot of speculation that a third character was introduced very briefly in this episode, and it's a very important character in the second one and in Ellie's story.
Yes. And Ellie also mentioned about the space stuff, which was actually a nice little throwback in the first or second game. But essentially in the first game, you go to this place and you have interactions with the characters in the place, but the place isn't built yet. And then in the second game, you spend a lot of time in this present space. And they're just doing good storytelling here because they know they've got a second season coming up. They know they're going to be going into that story. So knowing what we know now as storytellers and video game producers, how can we more seamlessly transition all this for the viewers? And that's what they did in this episode. So it really made sense.
at the time of writing and recording and producing and editing, they didn't know they were going into a second season. So it's kind of cool that they did leave these, they planted these seeds, as we like to say in storytelling, to kind of, it's those little nods, right? It's like those little nods to the video game crowd, because it's like, we know you know. We know you know, and thank you for being a fan. They're little
germinating
nods.
The field, right?
Yeah.
They know that there's a possibility. Why not plan for it? And if it doesn't happen, at least you got this little bit of a nugget.
Speaking of nuggets, whether it be a turd nugget or I don't know, what other chicken McNugget, let's talk about VR, meta, and all this fun stuff. So I'm just going to start this off by just asking you guys directly. Tyler, what are your thoughts on VR? Is it a fad? Do you think this will ever go away? Is this ever going to be successful? Is this ever going to make money? I know that's a lot to
There's several questions.
I know. What are your thoughts, essentially?
I think VR is not ready for showtime yet, is kind of the short version. The thing we keep trotting out, like the economics alone are flabbergasting. Right? Because like to have a decent VR setup, you need minimum, what, $4 or $5 grand? No, I guess
with PSVR,
I guess it's probably the cheapest option now.
PSVR is by far the cheapest option. Might be the most practical option. But here's the thing: PSVR is mainly just hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's what I was getting around to. Like, actually, no, I'm thinking about it. Like, the PS5 is, I mean, it's still what, 15 to $2 grand.
You're gonna be looking at, $550 Canadian plus tax.
No, but you need the PS5.
700 for the PSVR 2, 750 plus tax. It's significant. I guess the easiest point is there's a Oculus that can be a standalone headset that doesn't need to be hooked up to a rig, but I don't know if that's really the ideal experience here. We're talking about 4K or fairly high resolution stuff.
So there's. Yeah, my thing is, I don't think it's ready for prime time. Because, like, and like you said, like, it's like, all right, well, even if you say you already have PS5, like, for how many games do you really want the VR for? And the issue is, we have a carrot and egg, right? Of, you're not going to get, really the games and stuff VR is going to one day maybe get for us. Until that player install base gets a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, this is real expensive for dealing with a lot of problems that still exist. Okay, like, based upon the newest data I could get, 40% of players still are like, I can't physically do this.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we have an insanely fucked up policy structure around it, where using as part of like the PSVR 2's launch thing, a think tank went into the current policies and the current technology available, like a tech NGO that does, like, we talk about issues in tech, and they partnered with the World Economic Forum and the UN, and they pointed out that it is currently legal and viable in both Canada and the United States and the UK for, let's say, you get your PSVR V2, and let's say you have any number of some early warning signs of a ton of illnesses. Your PSVR is allowed to sell it to insurance companies.
Wow. There you go.
So the hypothetical they ran through, and they were like, could we do this? And ultimately they found yes, is your PSVR could track you. They could find that you have some certain micro slowdowns in your movement, even though you're in your 30s, that are a signifier that in 20 years you're going to get dementia. And they can use that to deny you and everyone in your family, because they've linked you through Facebook, their own databases, Twitter, and just be like, yeah, we're just treating you all as if you already have dementia.
Yeah, that's scary right there. Phil, thoughts? How do you feel about this whole VR phenomena?
As I'm going to put this from a tech enthusiast lens. Okay, because Tyler brings up some really good points about the actual moral and ethical stuff as well with VR, which I hadn't given too much thought to, but I do certainly appreciate that he has. As a tech lens, I've been excited for this product to actually work for a long time, and I do agree with Tyler. It's not ready for the prime time. I think out of all the stuff, my VR graveyard to this point is quite literally a Samsung Gear headset for a Samsung Galaxy 6S Edge that I had that would mount in it. A Google Dream headset that my Pixel 2 would mount into.
That beside your Stadia controller?
Yeah, it's beside my Stadia controller in the Google graveyard.
I was gonna say, Phil, we gotta get you like a glass case.
I know, right?
It'll be the Palpatine Phil Museum of Google.
Oh, you should see.
failures.
Does it have
You
a
should see the
Virtual
stuff
Boy
from-
from Nintendo?
You should see the stuff that I have in my basement from the 90s when I worked at a computer store. Oh, baby. Logitech graveyard there, boy.
Laser discs?
Anyhow. No laser discs, but I did have a laser disc. No, I didn't have a full laser disc. Someone else did. But anyhow, I also have the PSVR. I also have the Lenovo AR experience, which you'd slot your phone into and it would mirror up so you could use a practical lightsaber to do battles in your space. That probably had the most legs of being something that was usable if it wasn't so laser focused on one thing and one app.
Yeah.
So, AR, am I hopeful that that cracks the ice? Yeah, I am hopeful when you have companies like Apple trying to make augmented reality a thing. Will they do it? I don't know. But I would have thought the same thing with Sony, and Sony can't do it. Like, I just can't see, even though all the reviews of the PSVR 2 are fantastic, I just don't see it with how complicated the PS5 launch was, with the current inflation issues, with the economic realities hitting people right now. I just can't see Sony coming to market and getting a product at this price point to an install base that still isn't fully matured yet to be viable. And that means developers, to your point, aren't going to make games, which means that what's the freaking point?
Yep.
I'm going to be stuck in demo hell. I'm going to be sitting here playing a 10-minute Batman Arkham Asylum thing, listening to
Again.
the Joker laugh in my ears and go, ooh, that was scary, for like a year and a half until I get a game that's actually good, right?
Yep.
And that right there is the problem with the PlayStation VR, right? The original one. And let's take a look at, because this is the week that the PSVR 2 is going to come out, let's take a look at some of the reviews that I was able to find. The Verge. And I'm just going to read some headlines and notable quotes. The Verge, hardware is great, game lineup is not. Weakness, and this is a quote, weaknesses include the underwhelming launch game lineup, the cable that is easy to trip over, a lower level of comfort compared to the first PlayStation VR, and the fact that you can't play PC VR and PSVR 1 games. New York Times.
And the field of view is narrow as well, just like the first one.
It's 110 degrees, isn't it? Which is
something like that. It's pretty low, like compared to other big rigs.
New York Times.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's great. Don't buy it yet. The New York Times likes the ease of setup, comfort, and design of the PlayStation VR 2. And this was a direct quote. I was surprised to find that I liked it as much as I did. And its convenience, comfort, quality might be enough to convince me to put it on once in a while now that I have one. But again, they essentially call out the fact that there's no real game lineup.
And let's remember that all of these outfits got given theirs.
Yep.
Upload VR, a publication specializing in VR, says this. Sony clearly learned its lessons from the original PSVR, and PlayStation VR 2 feels like a major step for console VR, bringing the gap for those who want high-end features in a package that's easier to manage than a PC VR setup. They praise the hardware, they like the hardware, but then their overall conclusion is fairly positive compared to others. There was another VR publication that says this has been future-proof thanks to unique features. So as you can see, people who specialize in VR are giving this a bit more praise than on its hardware side, and leaving out the fact that it's missing some software. Eurogamer, they're talking again about the good display. This is a vastly superior VR experience that brings all the advances seen in other areas of the market to PS5. IGN.
I would have rather a Vita 2 than a VR 2.
IGN.
Go combat Nintendo.
So the only reason I'm bringing up IGN is because this is the most IGN thing ever. They're raving about PSVR 2, giving it a 9 out of 10.
Sure.
Of course.
Yep.
I mean, how much of that, though, is that who got them are going to be sympathetic?
Right? That's why I wanted to bring this up. Yeah, so that's just a taste of kind of what we're getting. So, we talked a little bit about this. Companies essentially run VR at a loss. Tyler, why do they keep trying and trying and trying?
I mean, there's so much to it. I mean, part of it, part of the economy of how, like, weird tech ideas get discussed nowadays, right? We've seen it with crypto, crypto was the big thing, and VR was the big thing. Remember Google Glass was the big thing?
Yeah.
And there were tons of glasses. And there were tons of, at the time, reports from various, like, professional, allegedly, outfits that are their think tanks or their research firms, or it's Statista who's going to charge you $5,000 for their proper report. And these are, like, there is a skill and a talent to forecasting. And then there's bananas garbage numbers hidden behind doing a deep dive is impossible. So, like, the one I love, and this is from Statista, who's like a statistics, we specialize in statistics and like forecasting website, wink, wink. Think about this math for a second. The number of VR users in the United States increased from 22.5 million in 2017 to 50.2 million in 22. There have been less than 2 million unit sales of VR across all platforms per year.
Yep.
What is a VR user, friends?
Right?
It's me with my box of VR headsets.
It is, right? It's a lot. Like, it's very few have a lot of these. And what a VR user is like, is that I went to a VR cafe?
Yeah.
Is that we assume every single purchasing person has a family of 5? What are these numbers?
Yep.
And you got to remember that, like, 2020, the Oculus Quest sold barely 1 million units. These are not great hardware units for this being the next big thing in technology.
Yeah, you bring up a great point because it's the differentiation of an active user versus number of users, right?
Yeah.
Among other stuff.
And you see it a lot of, like, the install base is 60 million units, and it's like, what?
Well, it begs the question exactly that. If Zuckerberg's got a campus of Metaverse people,
yeah,
right? And he says, okay, everybody's coming to the office today, or you're working from home. We're going to meet in the Metaverse.
Okay.
All of a sudden, that ticks up that number, right? Like, with Zuckerberg supplied hardware, right? That he's literally burning the house with.
Sure.
Right? So he's got a 13.7 billion loss for last year alone on this division.
Yeah. I want to talk about the industry as a whole before doing some of these deep dives, because part of it is, like, yeah, it's easy to find and hire a company to be like, oh, it's the greatest tech ever. It's the best.
Yeah.
But, like, even VR evangelists, and, think about how people are presenting data. But it's like, this is what I loved. One of what I pulled up from research. 55% of VR users found the experience at least moderately satisfying. That means 45% of users thought it was not at least moderately satisfying.
Well, isn't the biggest problem that Zuckerberg has in getting his own adoption rate within his own company is people are just telling him it's crap? Like, literally, the product they're making looks worse than the Sony virtual world that they had under the Sony in PlayStation 3. The home, remember that thing, Boris? Where you could like wander around like a little universe and own a house and all that kind of stuff. Like, this looks like it's Nintendo threw up the Wii people from the Wiimote stuff, the Wii Sports, and they don't even have legs.
Okay, here's my issue with all this.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, in some world, this world, Animal Crossing is a better VR world than the actual metaverse and VR that we're seeing.
By far. Easy peasy.
Right? Like,
yeah.
That to me is a staggering statement, because everyone knows how I feel about Animal Crossing to begin with. But the fact that we what is the so I think this is the thing. I want to differentiate between consumer VR and educational or training VR, right? Because there's a big difference between the two. And this is going back to our conversation about good technology and the good uses of technology versus the not so good use of technology. And it's the consumer market, right? So as we're really focusing our conversation about the consumer market, but then there's the practical training, educational uses of VR, which... Yeah, cool. Woo, right? Like surgeons and this and that being able to train on VR. That's beautiful.
VR reenactment is one of the best ways of curing best ways of treating, I should say, PTSD.
Yep.
Well, I would imagine people with concussion issues and things like that, certain environments might be beneficial for them to at least be exposed to, or controlled applications thereof, right? Like, I've got a friend who's got concussion issues and she's got brain injury issues, and she wants to try VR for certain meditative things. And certain things that she can no longer enjoy, i.e. going for a kayak ride or something like that. She wants to do it virtually for 20 minutes as an escape and remind herself of how calming she finds being on the water.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
like that type of thing. There are things.
I'm not trying to crap on the entire VR experience, right? I'm like, we're really focusing on the consumer market of VR. I wanted to make that point very crystal clear, that I do think VR is a spectacular tool for certain things. But as we're talking about the consumer market, as we're talking about PSVR, the Metaverse, the Oculus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the consumer side of all those companies, that's where I'm like, this is a fad, right? It's not going anywhere on a training education point of view. It's the consumer market where they just can't penetrate it. And what's the end game? What is the end game? At what point is a company just going to say, fuck it? Is a company going to say that? Or is this going to continue being a fad that comes up every 10, 15 years that we're going to like invest billions of dollars in?
Well, I think... Pardon me?
Porque no lo dos.
Right?
Why not both? I mean, I think part of it is some companies never stopped after the 90s. They've been trying to do VR the whole time.
Yeah.
Disney, to their credit, has had a VR team since what, like 93?
Yeah.
And I think
back in those days, I was selling a VFX headset at IBM for like $3,000.
Yeah.
Right? That could render polygons. Woo!
Well, and that's, I think, what it is I think that some companies are going to keep trying it until someone manages to crack that equation a little bit. Like, I do think that we are, on the financial side, a lot closer than we used to be.
Yeah.
And maybe if we weren't in the middle of, like, the fourth once-in-a-lifetime recession, these numbers would be reasonable. Because... right? Like, people bitch about video game prices, and it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, having to pay $100 for a game, basically, in Canada. But, there is that defense of, like, how much were video games in the 90s?
Yeah.
$100.
$70.
Yeah. Here in Canada, for N64 games, I used to get my parents to pay $100.
Yep. Sometimes even higher.
Yeah.
But I also think part of that was economics were a much better time right then.
Yeah. 100%.
This is where I see things. I see Mark Zuckerberg taking a big gamble on a hardware product because he needs to take a big gamble on it because his software product is under heavy threat from iOS and whatnot. And I think you nailed the nail on the head when you go, oh, Animal Crossing makes a better metaverse than Metaverse makes a metaverse. Like, why can't the metaverse not have this hardware component? You know what I mean? Then I think when you free yourself from that, but who wants to make another free product? No, here's my $800 headset that goes with it, boys and girls. Like, to the point now where they're going to be charging for verified users, a la Twitter, because they just don't have capital coming out of where they need it to. So they're trying to go directly to the source and milk the people.
Well,
and the other side is gated gardens are real good for monopolists.
Yes, literally what I was going to say.
Yeah,
not word by word, but
yeah, but like, that's why Apple does so well is because it's like they have it's their app store and their music store and their video store and their streaming and their devices, and they get so much data on you.
Yep, and it's not that Facebook didn't try; they made their own phones.
100%.
They chased all this down in the flash stream of being able to strike in there. And couldn't figure out an angle into that market, right? Yeah. It's, this is hard. It's how many billions of dollars are you going to burn on VR headsets before you wave the flag of, this is hard?
I will say, I think part of it, if we're going to look at the metaverse Facebook of it all, I think a big part of the problem is I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is that smart.
No,
I don't think he's as smart as he thinks he is.
Agreed.
But the difference is anyone who's run Apple, like, other than Jobs, who got kicked out, those people have like built careers elsewhere. They've done things.
Yep.
They weren't a teenager who just all of a sudden had the biggest company on the planet.
Or a trust fund baby like Elon Musk.
I wasn't even going to get to him. Like, that's a separate fucking...
But I say that for the simple fact that I know how our listeners think and I know the type of messages I get.
Okay, I mean, if you want that, the other side of it is Elon Musk just is allowed to ignore laws.
Well,
like, it's real easy to have a better company when you just ignore the laws and no one punishes you.
I have a self-driving car. Is that allowed? Shh.
Yeah. No. People are dying. Doesn't matter.
They're fabricating those results.
That's even Facebook's model, right? Like, the Rohingya genocide is because Facebook didn't care. It's just, I mean, people in North America don't tend to care because do you know where the Rohingya genocide was?
I imagine Rohingya. But Cambridge Analytics, even that. But even more serious because you're talking about genocide, people's lives, right? Not even their politics.
Yeah.
Sickening.
And that's what I'm saying, right? Like, Elon Musk is he's such a dumb. It's like Uber, right? It's like people are like, Uber's such a smart company. Like, no, it's not. It's just cabs with an app. The app is good, but the app isn't why they make money. They make money because they pay people less. They don't have to worry about car insurance or health insurance. They make money because they don't have to follow the law.
It all sidestepped regulation, and regulation can't catch up to it because it's using technology as a leverage point. And it's just a matter of time before the legislators get involved and start going, maybe we should go back to taxis.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If Uber had come in and was like, what are the cab regulations? We'll comply with cab regulations. They just aren't a viable company.
Yeah.
And you could make the position that the regulations are out of date. And if you look at New York cabs, sure. But we did come up with those regulations for a reason.
Yeah. And you can see it in the court cases against Uber for raping.
Yeah, right? Or Airbnb for the number of insane things there.
With
Uber,
we
washroom cams
for a reason.
With Uber, define a contract worker and who's liable to what.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, I think that's part of the reason. Like, I am surprised California they won Prop 220 there. But like, so much of modern companies that are successful, it's like, yeah, it's the rules aren't being enforced. And if you say that's smart business, it's like, then you just think like cheating should be allowed. And
it's just like,
that's a dangerous thread to start pulling on.
It's just like politicians and rich people. Well, we don't pay taxes. Well, that just means we're smart. No, it means you don't pay taxes.
Like, Elon Musk gets more subsidies than any other company in existence, basically.
Yeah.
And still is like, and again, like, is helping Russians kill Ukrainians. So
and here's the thing, right? Like with Elon Musk specifically and his enterprise, like Tesla, his biggest enterprise, Tesla. Maybe it's not his biggest, to be fair, but the one everyone talks about, put it that way.
Sure.
The majority of the money that it makes isn't from selling cars. It's from selling the subsidies it gets awarded to other companies for their green violations around North America and other parts of the world, because their cars don't do that. So they get those subsidies there, and then they forward them on, right? And
he's given subsidies ignoring the environmental degradation of lithium mining.
Yep. Or the recyclability of like all of this, but anyhow.
That's
that being said, the disruptors will emerge and a new industry will come about, hopefully, and save the planet. Yeah.
I mean, not if they can just keep getting squashed, because that's the problem, right? That's why we still have Facebook, is because every time a disruptor tries to come out, they just buy them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it works, though. That's literally how the tech industry has been working for years and continues to work for years and will continue to work for years, just like VR and the Metaverse. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep trying. And maybe one day we'll get it. Maybe we won't. But I'm sure we'll have this exact same episode in 2 years' time saying, so we spent another $40 billion a year and we are no closer. But here's the thing. You know what, though? Here's the thing also, and this is going to be my final point. And I'm going to wrap up my portion of this with this. That's this. You know, I've always talked about tech companies and the pressures on tech companies about innovation, right? People like buzzwords. And I think that a lot of this just has to do with keeping, quote-unquote, innovation high within a tech company to show your investors that you're putting money somewhere, that you're thinking of the future, that you're inventing something, reinventing the wheel, whatever that is. That keeps investors and analysts and the market happy, and that's pretty much where we're at. Tyler, what are your final thoughts?
I think you're entirely right, Boris, and that's what I was trying to say. Is like there's a whole separate industry of people just hyping that train,
hyping it up. Phil,
my final thoughts are: I'm waiting for the Vita 2. Come on, Sony, Vita 2 time.
Right. All right, Phil.
Keep on doing this.
That time of week.
All right. Hopefully, I don't screw it up like I did last week. Speed read, everybody. You can find us at www.itscanonpodcast.com. You can track us down on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, patreon.com/SNME Radio. Really, anywhere you find podcasts, you're going to find the It's Canon Podcast. And if you like what you hear, maybe tell a friend and subscribe and leave a like if possible on the platform. We thank you for spending the time with us this week.
We thank you indeed, and you are listening to the It's Canon Podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things geek. We talk about things like movies, games, books, VR, tech, anything and everything. And guys, do you know what the best part of it all is?
Murders?
Alcantara. Oh, maybe it's in podcast. It's
in
podcast.
My God. It's all in podcast.
It's all in podcast.
There we go. I screwed it up.
There we go. All right.
It's all in canon, folks.
He's Phil. He's Tyler. Thank you for listening. And as always, stay tranquilo.